All right. We will wait for a few people to get here. Well, we're going to do the.
Yeah, let's do the New Jack thing right off the bat
Okay.
before we start recording anything.
Robert Gross, how you doing, sir? Well, that show was, as Tommy Rich would say, was fired up.
From what we've heard this evening, you need to say that with a slur.
Are they saying I was? Hey, I'm fired up. Somebody say something about go get a beer. I want to go get me a beer.
Hey, buddy, got any of them somas? I didn't even know what that was.
Victor Nash is with us. How you doing, Victor? Robert Gross said he's fighting zombies.
Yeah.
Michael Barr said, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good, except for reading all the stuff going on in professional wrestling. What happened to the top 10 referees? We did that last week.
And I had the number one
7 p.m.
referee, by the way, Victor. Number one.
And I've got your list, Victor, and I'm putting it on the at the bottom of the list because I think when we did it, I have most of the time have computer problems. Yeah, I really think we need new computers, but since we can't afford them, we'll just we'll stick with the ones we got, I guess.
Yeah, I finally got mine wired straight to my modem without doing the Wi-Fi, and it's still dropping me.
Wow.
I don't know.
He said, "No, I did not say you, Brent." I said, "Y'all." There's the heel Michael coming out.
Hey, Michael's down in Dothan, and Ben Masters and I can't think what that promoter's name is.
Eric.
Anyway, they're fixing to start up Continental again, I think in October, September and October maybe. And, that might be a road trip for us.
Hey, and by the way, since you're there, roving reporter, we're looking for roving reporters that will go there, take some stuff for us, bring it back, and let us know what's going on. We like to know what's going on in wrestling. We were going to do that before the pandemic happened. We thought about doing all that, but that all didn't happen. Time for a second-hand computer from a bunch.
What I already have. Thank you.
Robert Gross, they have been advertising the show.
Good deal.
Rick Brooks is with us as well. How you doing, Rick? And all right, it's time for Jack to tell a story.
Yeah, this is not going to go to any of the YouTube stuff. This is just for you guys. 2000, early 2001, a guy that I had met called me about bringing the show to New York, which I did. It was a very successful show. We completely packed the place out. We turned away over 1,500 people. I mean, it was a great show. And then he wanted to do shows out in California, which Brent went with us out there. Brent, by the way, your name is Rodney, it seems like, on your thing there.
Oh, it is.
Wait a second. Maybe I can change that, Brent. Let me see if I can change it.
Was my name Rodney the whole time?
But anyway, Brent, can verify that, just quite simply, this guy was an idiot. We went out for 2 weeks, supposed to have 12 shows in 14 days. We get out there and he has 2. That's all he has lined up. So he gets mad and he thinks I should pay all the expenses of all these guys that I brought out there. And I gently, as I had him pushed up against the wall, explained to him that I was not the promoter. I was the booker. I put the shows together. Well, we had one more show lined up here in Alabama. So anyway, we all left. Most of us, bought our own tickets to come back instead of staying out there for another week. And the ones that stayed, he had to pay. So he was pretty upset. That was on him, not on me. So we get to the Alabama show. Brent, I don't know that you came to that.
No, I didn't do the Alabama.
Yeah, and so again, I walk in. It's at a high school. I walk into the coach's office, and I had personally dropped the advance tickets, posters, everything off well in advance. Well, when I walk in, everything's still sitting on the corner of his desk, right where I placed it. He had not done anything. And they had a big ball tournament at the school. There was a huge amount of cars out there, and I think we sold maybe 20 tickets because nobody knew about it. So anyway, he comes in, and he's mad still, and he's wanting me to give him money for his failure to promote the right way, which I told him, I said, I am not giving you a dime. Now, if you want to fight about it, we can fight about it, but you still ain't getting a dime. So he said, well, I figured you'd say that. So he said, I brought some insurance. So he leaves, and he comes back in the dressing room with New Jack. So they walk in, and of course, New Jack immediately, knows me because, like I say, we go back years. And that promoter, he's pitching his little fit and telling New Jack, well, that's the guy I want you to beat up. And so I'm standing there, and New Jack walks over, gets about a foot in front of me. He's got this, I'm going to kill you look on his face, and then grinned and then hugged me. So we're standing there hugging each other, patting each other on the back. New Jack turns around to the guy and says, I'm going back to the car because I ain't staying for this show. Yeah. He said, and when you come out, he said, you better have my money. So that's my little New Jack story. That wasn't the last time I saw him. I saw him in Nashville. After that, I went up for a TNA taping, and he walks in. Now, he was having a lot of memory issues at the time. So he walks in, and he walks over to me, and he shakes hands, but I can tell he's not recognizing me. So he goes on, and he works his match out. I hear him and Jeff Jarrett off to the side arguing because New Jack, now they're at the Nashville Fairgrounds. He's wanting to go up top and cut a hole in the very top of the building so that he can come through the hole down onto these scaffolds that are like still 20 feet underneath the ceiling, that he's wanting whoever he's fighting. The premise is they started fighting in the dressing room. He wants that put over on the microphone, and then they fall through the hole in the roof onto the scaffolding, off the scaffolding, into the ring. He's very serious about all this. And Jeff was explaining to him, I can't cut a hole in the roof of the building. So, and then he gets done with that. They figure out what they are going to do. And he walks back over to me, and it's like he doesn't even remember, coming by me and talking to me on the way in. And he's like, Jack! And he comes running over there, and he hugs me, and he turns around, and Jeff Jarrett's standing there, and he said, okay, you'll have to call me Jerome tonight because there's only one Jack here. But he was a great guy. I never booked him on shows, and we talked about that, but he understood that I do family style shows, and he knew what he did was not for a family type audience. But man, he was just a good human being. There's nothing to say about his in-ring stuff. It is what it is. But outside that ring, you couldn't ask for a better guy.
Yeah, we were talking about it. We said it before, he played his gimmick. There's no doubt. As The Rock, and if you've watched The Rock, Young Rock, by the way, is a great show. If you've not watched it, it's a tremendous show. It tells a good story every week. They tell a story on there about The Rock buying a car for $20, and it's on the show. It's actually on the show. He buys a car for $20 from a bum. As they're driving down the road, another bum pops up out of the back of the car, and they kind of have a there. By the way, that really happened. but it wasn't a friend. It was Downtown Bruno. Downtown Bruno is the one that did that actually happened with. Downtown Bruno gave him the money to buy the car. And that did actually happen, and it makes but it doesn't. They in the series, it's not Downtown Bruno. It's actually a friend that he works at a pizza place or something. But if you haven't watched it, I'm telling you,
maybe Bruno worked on a pizza place on the side.
I don't think he did. I don't know. I don't.
If you knew what we knew about Bruno, you wouldn't eat anything.
No, this is true. Bruno's a character. Nice man. Very nice person.
Yeah, he's running for city council, I think, where he lives there in Mississippi.
He'll probably win. That. But he gave Dwayne Johnson, or they call him Dewey, on the show. He actually gave him a place to live twice, and he didn't ask for anything. And at one point, his mom was there. And actually, he lived with, and Rock talks about living in someplace in Mississippi. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the town now.
But it is good. If y'all have not watched it, take the time. It has a good story to it. And
there's a lot of people that get tied up in the factual details, and it's still for entertainment. There's a lot of truth in there, but it's placed at different times for the entertainment aspect of it. I think it's a good show myself.
It's one of my favorite. That and Rebel. By the way, I enjoy Rebel. Rebel is a very good show.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it.
That is a good show. So if y'all want to watch something good, I love good writing, and I would love wrestling if there was some good writing to it. I just want good writing. I want to see those angles like they used to do with Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man. I want to see that stuff. I want to see the stuff that they did with Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Okay, they redone it 22 times, and never worked after that. But I guess the first one was Paul Orndorff, wasn't it? I guess it was the first one that they did with, and then they did it with Randy Savage. But just great stuff. All right, I guess we better get to let's see here. No zombies in show yet. I think Robert's trying to give me a heart attack on that. I believe he's trying to.
Well, if I smoke this cigar on down, I'll get kind of wild-eyed because it gets kind of rough at the end.
Richard Hood, guys, I remember when Jack, the Gangsta Jim Cornette, shot a video in Bowen Homes housing project in Atlanta back in 90. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Let's see, great memories there, Jack. Thanks. Richard Hood. I played high school football against New Jack's High School, which was, I think I said that right before. Terrell, is that how you say that?
Yeah.
The H is high school in Atlanta. Michael Barr, who in tarnation is the thing called Riddle on WWE?
Michael, I can't help you. I was saying earlier, I turned my TV off tonight, and for the first time since the 1980s, I'm not at least recording Monday Night Raw.
All right, let's turn on. I have to find it. I did not open it. I thought I had already opened it up, but y'all want to do the World Champion Series?
Sure.
You got that, Rodney?
I do.
I do have it as well. I just have to find it where I sent it to y'all. All right, it is open. All right, y'all ready?
Good.
Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And this is the World Champion Series. And we're going to look at the next World Heavyweight Champion. That would be the 5th World Champion, Charlie Cutler. Jack?
Charlie Cutler was a 200-pound boxer who transitioned into the pro wrestling game and became an accomplished heavyweight who mixed it up with the best wrestlers of the day. He got his start on a boxing troupe called under the famed John L. Sullivan. Cutler was a powerhouse and battled both Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt in his early days as a pro wrestler. However, Charles Kid Cutler rose to prominence in the 1910s following the departure of Frank Gotch. He laid claim to the American heavyweight title, which he lost to Dr. B.F. Roller in 1912. More notably, he won a fictitious tournament to name the new world champion. The title made him for the rest of his career. The following year, Cutler lost to Joe Stetcher in Omaha, Nebraska, with Frank Gotch looking on. Cutler was able to live off that fabricated glory for the rest of his days. He competed in the famous 1916 tournament in New York City that featured the Masked Marvel, which was his and Jack Curley's idea to garner interest. Cutler would wrestle legends like Strangler Lewis, Jim Londos, and Stanislaus Zbyszko numerous times and was kept near the top of the card well into the 1920s. In the post-Gotch era of pro wrestling, Charlie Cutler was one of many claimants to the throne, but his case was never been as strong as many of the champions that he battled. People never considered Cutler the world champion, so when Joe Stetcher wins the title, Frank Gotch had to be in attendance to make his title reign seem legitimate.
You know, it's kind of sad. There's not a lot about Charlie Cutler. There's not a lot of information to find about him because they really did. The newspapers or nothing actually didn't think of him as the real world heavyweight champion. Now, and that has to do with Frank Gotch just retiring with the title. Not a good situation, but Joe Stetcher becomes the 6th world heavyweight champion. Rodney?
That's right. Joe Stetcher won the World Heavyweight Championship on July the 5th, 1915 in Omaha, Nebraska, when he defeated Charlie Cutler, which I find to be the phony champion in the first place. He didn't even win a real tournament. It's just wrong. Defeated Charlie Cutler to become the first widely recognized World Heavyweight Champion after the retirement of Frank Gotch. The son of the Bohemian immigrants, Joseph Joe Stetcher was born on April the 4th, 1893 on a 400-acre farm in Dodge, Nebraska. Joe was the youngest of his family of 8 children, and as a youth, he was excellent in numerous sports, including swimming, golf, tennis, and baseball. While the boys were still young, Frank Stetcher enrolled his 3 sons in a wrestling course at the local Fairmont YMCA, and Joe's older brother soon emerged as an accomplished amateur grappler. Joe's eldest brother, Lewis, would earn a commission to Annapolis and was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy, and he eventually recognized as the National Intercollegiate Light Heavyweight Champion. Moreover, Tony Stetcher starred as a premier wrestler at Fremont High School, and as a result, Joe was determined to follow in his brother's large footsteps.
From the moment he took the mat, it was clear that Joe was a natural wrestling talent as he utilized his strong body and long limbs to outclass his opponents. Then in 1909, as a high school senior at just age 16, he nearly defeated Doc Benjamin Roller, one of the world's top turn-of-the-century grapplers, in a hard-fought exhibition bout where Roller was touring the Midwest. He would be trained by Roller, which makes sense, but he was wrestling as part of the tour. In 1912, both Joe and Tony Stetcher decided to join the professional ranks, and Joe easily defeated Bill Hofke, I believe that's how you say it, Hokef, in his first pro match. After a few months, it soon became apparent that Joe, who was taller and heavier than his older brother, was also clearly the superior grappler. However, Tony possessed greater savvy for the business, and so he became Joe's trainer and co-manager along with Joe. These names, I won't tell you, I'm not good at names, but I think that's Joe Hetmanik. What'd you say?
Hetmanik.
All right, who had previously served as the Dodge postmaster. During this time, he also developed freakish, strong, it's easy for me to say.
Really unusual.
Yeah, very unusual.
Strong leg muscles.
Yeah, as he practiced squeezing 100-pound sacks of grain on the farm until they would ultimately burst. He's also said to have practiced squeezes on pigs and even a mule. As a result, Stetcher soon became renowned for his feared leg Caesar submission hold, which earned him the nickname the Scissor King. Yeah, thank you so much.
And at that time, he could also walk in with washing machines between his legs as he walked out.
Nevertheless, Stetcher would not gain national awareness until attracting the attention of the fabled farmer Martin Burns, the former American heavyweight champion who was also the mentor to the now current world heavyweight wrestling champion Frank Gotch. While touring the area, Burns planned to sucker the area gamblers by offering cash to any local wrestlers who could defeat his strongman, who just happened to be world-class booker Yusuf Hussein, one of wrestling's feared terrible Turks. This was a standard con for Burns' group, and when young Stetcher accepted the offer, nobody anticipated that he could pose a legitimate challenge. However, Stetcher proceeded to out-wrestle the great champion, and when he finally slapped on his patented scissors hold, after 45 minutes, a desperate Hussein was disqualified for biting Stetcher's leg. A match was being worked out between Stetcher and Jess Wildegard on March 25th, possibly in Fremont, Nebraska. The match was finally signed for March 30th, 1914 in Omaha. The match was canceled by Omaha police after they learned that the match may not be on the level. Stetcher and his party said that the statement was not true and libel. Stetcher claimed all of his matches were fair.
You know, I'm looking at this. This is kind of this is very interesting. I wonder, was this a true wrestling match and the guy actually bit his leg, or was this part of the finish? Was this a finish that they came up with?
Lost the time, but I would say a work.
I would too, but it was very good, by the way. I thought that was pretty good. And as always, wrestling always getting a bad rap. Even in the 1912, 1920, somewhere around there.
1912, yeah.
All right, Rodney.
All right, the first world heavyweight champion reign begins. Prior to the title match with Cutler in Omaha, Stetcher's friends were making arrangements to present him with a new championship belt. The belt had 2 strands of gold links with bronze medals and diamonds. A Schlossler, I guess, owner of the local Dodge jewelry store, was in charge of getting the belt made. Joe's brother Louis came home to Dodge from New York and would be in his corner. Both Anton and Joe Stetcher, the Stetcher was scheduled to appear on Saturday, July the 3rd at Dodge's annual 4th of July celebration. Anton's wrestling match and Joe's exhibition were both canceled due to rain. By this point, Stetcher claimed the American heavyweight title. He was initially the Nebraska state champion, then the Midwest heavyweight title holder. He had victories over South Dakota state champion, the Kansas champion, the Southwest champion, the Southern champion, the Northwest champion, the Canadian champion, and the world light heavyweight champion, which should not have counted because he's not a heavyweight.
This is true. Frank Gotch and Farmer Burns had built Charles Cutler up to be a possible rival for the world heavyweight title. Gotch had even gone as far as proclaim Cutler champion after his own retirement, even though the latter had suffered important losses to Dr. B.F. Roller and Henry Otterman. Is that how you say Otterman?
Otterman.
By June 1915, after months of sizing young Stetcher up, Frank Gotch welcomed Joe into his training camp. Gotch trained with Stetcher prior to return match with Henry, what did you say, Jack?
Otterman.
On July 3rd in Humboldt. Now let's look at the day Stetcher won the world title. Omaha, Nebraska, July 5th, 1915, the Roark Park. Joe Stetcher beat Charles Cutler to capture the world heavyweight title. Stetcher won the first fall in 1705. In the second in 1059, there was a reported 10 to 15,000 fans in attendance. Stetcher was accompanied by brother Anton and Louis Stetcher, along with his manager, Joe, whatever that name is. And Cutler was accompanied by Ed Strangler Lewis and Earl Caddock. Oh, I'm still part of Stetcher was 21 years of age at the time of his first world title victory, yet he remained in the vast shadow of Gotch, who had retired a couple years earlier without even losing the title, and was thus still acknowledged by the public as professional wrestling's true champion. As a result, a Gotch versus Stetcher dream match was arranged for July 18th, 1916, and was promoted as being professional wrestling's biggest matchup since Gotch's battles with George Hagen-Smith a decade earlier. Unfortunately, the bout never materialized as Gotch broke a fibula in his leg while wrestling Managoff as part of a traveling circus, and his health deteriorated until he eventually died on December 16th, 1917. Despite having never faced Gotch, though it is speculated that he had dominated the Asian champion in an impromptu sparring session, Stetcher reigned as the sport's elite star while also beginning a legendary rival with new professional wrestling sensation named Edge Strangler Lewis. Stetcher and Lewis wrestled for the first time on October 20th, 1915, when the then unknown Lewis was counted out after over 2 hours when he fell out of the ring and hit his head on a chair. The two then rematched on July 4th, 1916, when they grappled for nearly 5 hours before the match was finally ruled a draw.
On September 19th, 1915, moving pictures of the Stetcher Cutler Championship match was going to be shown in Stetcher's hometown of Dodge at the Opera House. It was said to be 2,000 feet of film showing the great match. Admission was 25 cents. Joe Stetcher's Belt Day was held on Saturday, October 9th, 1915 in Dodge, as a valuable diamond belt was presented to the new heavyweight champion of the world by his friends. The actual belt was made to fit a 38-inch waist, and the disc were 4.5 inches at the widest part. Actual measurement shows 6.5 inches in width. The belt contains 4 half-carat diamonds of finest quality and 44 smaller size stones in addition. 260 quarter-carat diamonds have been used throughout its construction. Solid 14 and 18 karat gold and platinum composes the material of the entire belt, according to the advertisement of the special day in the Dodge newspaper. Beginning at 10 o'clock in the morning, Joe Stetcher's Belt Day would feature an automobile parade, a band concert, a Rube wrestling match by the famous Teddy Brothers, songs and speeches. The Honorable John H. Moorhead, Governor of Nebraska, would be on hand to present Stetcher with the belt. Following a dinner at 6 p.m., Stetcher wrestled Kervarus at 7:30, displaying his amazing abilities to the townspeople.
Very interesting story on Joe Stetcher. A lot of information on Stetcher, by the way, because he would later become the world champion again. This would not be his last time being the world heavyweight champion. Very interesting story about him, and I think he probably goes down as one of the greats professional wrestling champions. Any final comments, Jack, on what we just read?
No, but eating dinner before you wrestle, boy, he had to be a house.
Right.
Rodney, any final comments as we look at the, I think that was the 5th and 6th World Heavyweight Champions.
Frank Gotch is words I cannot say on this program. But in fact, though, history does repeat itself when Mr. Flair does the same thing and walks out on WCW.
And
it actually delegitimizes the champion,
and it really does.
That's what Frank Gotch did, and that's what Ric Flair did to the NWA title.
And this is the problem with Frank Gotch. Look at what he did to the championship belt. Look what he did to it, because nobody, because he would not actually do the job. Now, maybe he was going to do the job for Joe Stetcher, but he ends up getting hurt and he passes away. So eventually, maybe he was really going to pass the torch. We've talked about passing the torch. Mm-hmm. He did not pass the torch, which is never good for the wrestling business. Someone has to pass the torch to the next person.
It delegitimizes the title altogether.
If you've enjoyed this video on the world champions, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page you haven't already. Go one step further, hit that notification bell, and share the video. We will be back with the next World Heavyweight Champion on this World Champion Series on the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. We'll tell you what, the wrestling really hadn't changed any.
No, it has not. No, it has not. It was.
They were having bad problems back in the 1912s.
Exactly right.
What governor today would give it? And by the way, how much did they pay for that belt? I've never found that anywhere.
Well, as I have been in wrestling, a long time, I would question everything that was said about it. That's just the way I am.
Yeah, because fake stones were available back then too.
It was. I mean, how they explained that thing on the newspaper. That was from a newspaper article.
Yes.
But how they explained that was incredible.
And would a governor do it? Probably not. But I would assume that a mayor or a county mayor or county executive would do it for sure. But no,
a governor would do.
I don't think a governor would do it. Well, Cuomo might.
Cuomo was actually at a show I did in New York.
Oh, was it?
That was before he was governor.
Did he want to present you with the belt?
They did tell me that when they introduced me to him, they said he's our future governor. Which the guy who introduced me was a mob guy, and I said, "Oh, how do you know?" And he said, "Well, because we're paying for it."
The problem with WWE is that too many of their so-called wrestlers become Hollywood movie stars. I don't really have a problem with that.
No, I don't either. And there's not a lot of them that transition. I mean, you're talking about The Rock, of course. Steve Austin had a minor run, but I don't think he's doing movies anymore. Cena's doing some. I don't think he'll ever reach the heights of The Rock, but I don't bemoan them. Especially as they get older.
I have to say, though, I've seen Steve Austin's movies, and there's a reason why he ain't.
Well, he's the same character. He's Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's no, you don't get a lot of other depth to these characters in the movie because he's kind of one dimensional.
One of the funniest movies I watched with The Rock was Get Shorty. Did you ever watch that? His character in that movie is tremendous.
Yeah,
it's just, and I believe that Get Shorty might have been possibly a true movie. I mean, it really did. That stuff really happened.
I think so.
It was.
He has a great range as an actor. He really impresses me.
Yeah, on that last Jumanji, I didn't like the story, so to speak, but his acting in it was tremendous. The way he did it. I mean, he acted just like the other character, and it was great movies. I like the Rock movies. Michael Barr, back in the days of kayfabe, wrestling was just trying to make a comeback. There were wrestling moves or holds. Moving holds back then made the wrestler's name. Yeah, I agree. You talk about that, the Scissor King. I mean, they built that up. I know even back in the 1970s, the Great Zulu, which we all know who the Great Zulu is, wasn't the greatest wrestler in the world, but they got the bear hug over with him so big time that the place would go wild when he would put it on people.
Well, they did that. Yeah, Wrestling 2's knee lift, Superstars Cobra hold. They built those moves that they meant something. So you knew when you get hit or when they applied the holds or they hit the moves or whatever, it meant something. It's not that they were just, over the top wild moves. Anybody could have done a knee lift, but 2 had such style in it, and you knew when he hit it, it meant something.
Yeah.
Nothing means anything anymore.
Oh, and then they'll kick out of it even if they do.
Yeah.
They do a lot of that. Michael said, who came up with all the holds in the kayfabe days? Did a certain wrestler have that finish, or did this whole test as a wrestler progressed? Each guy would come up with that. Fuller leg lock was come up with. Buddy Fuller come up with that. He's the one that came up with it. Figure four leg lock. Some guy invented it, and just people stowed it throughout the years. If you look at the scissor hold, was probably invented by Joe Stetcher. Some form or fashion of it came from him. Everything came back from. Wendell Cooley was the world's still in everybody's gimmick.
Well, look at how many holds that we use commonplace in wrestling now that we picked up from MMA over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's just New Jack went to and played football at Clark Atlanta University. Robert Grice, if WWE ever allowed, which two WWE wrestlers would like to see go at it with no riders or predetermined outcomes, a real wrestling match? But I guess the question would be asked, has them guys been trained to actually have a real wrestling match? Would they really, was there any guys? I know, what's his name, that he's not there right now, the big guy, used to be the WWE champion. What was his name? Big old dude, whatever his name is. But Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar.
He's legitimate. He can actually wrestle. But is there anyone else there?
He and Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley has a lot of MMA experience. And I think that has to be your gauge to answer that question right there. But I'll also say that nobody in wrestling pays to see a real fight. That's not what fans want to see.
No, as Rip Rogers said, if you hit someone very hard, you can't sell it.
Yeah,
that's true. You can't. I remember that Wrestling 2 and Superstar said they used to hit each other so hard they couldn't sell it, and they finally would have to back down on it a little bit so they actually could sell the move because you do. If I hit Rodney right there real hard, he's not going to really sell it. He's just going to kind of. He's just going to fall down, and he's not going to make it.
There's a difference between selling and registering. Registering means your eyes kind of roll up in your head because it hurts, so much, but you're not taking bumps usually. You could get hit hard enough to knock somebody down, but that really don't happen as much as people think it does because I've been in several real fights.
Richard Hood said, let's see, he also played some semi-pro football and was a bounty hunter. Yes. Can you imagine him coming towards you?
Yeah.
Let's see, Robert, could there be a true match without the moves or holds that were used in old school wrestling? No. A true match relies slowly on wrestling skill. Yeah. And a lot of people are not trained that way. Years ago, you were trained to be a wrestler first.
Yeah,
an actual wrestler. You had to know the wrestling moves. Then they started teaching the rest of it. They didn't teach you all the other stuff until after they hurt you several times in real moves. Because really what they would do, they'd put you in a hold and you would yell out, scream, yell for your mama to help you. And then they'd say, do you remember that? Do you remember when I put you in that? Well, let me show you how we do it. And then they'd put it on. And if the guy wasn't selling good, so evidently you forgot how to sell that. So then they'd really hook it on you and say, okay, now you remember. Remember how you did that, now sell it. They don't train people that way anymore. And I think if they would go back to training people that it was real first, they would know what to go back to when they get lost. Today they just get lost. They just don't know what the next move's supposed to be. They just, okay, what did
I told a guy recently about, because he got lost in his match, and he said, I didn't know what to do. And I said, grab a hold. He said, what does that mean?
That's right.
It wasn't his fault. It just nobody had ever told him.
Snatch a headlock. Nothing will care.
Armbar.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Rick Brooks said, could a wrestler work more than one territory at the same time? Yes.
Yeah.
Ole did. Ole Anderson did. Buzz Sawyer did. He worked for Carolinas and Georgia. It seemed like Piper was working Mid-Atlantic Georgia at the same time he was, 82 and 83. But there was a time that he did come there and work full time. But he got fired within, 6 weeks, Rodney?
It wasn't long. It wasn't long at all.
I don't think he wanted to be there.
And honestly, it was the biggest disappointment of all time.
Yes,
Really, it was.
Did not draw the money. He did not draw the money in Atlanta that they thought he would. Said the fans in Cleveland really believe Ox Baker's heart punch was a killer, and he was really killing Ernie Ladd.
Yep.
And it's the way they presented it. Even today, if you can make people believe whatever you want them to believe. It's up to you, but you can't one moment do a serious match, and then the next thing, zombies are attacking people at ringside.
No, and that was the sad part about that show last night was that. Really, the card was solid. There were some great matches last night, but then you have that one that just completely goes off in left field that adds absolutely nothing to the product. In fact, takes away from everything that came after it.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And then we'll do this. Then we got to do the thing because we're running out of time here. What was a match called when two faces wrestled back in the kayfabe days and came out shaking hands? Boring most of the time. No, I'm just joking. Now I shouldn't have said that. It was a scientific match, right?
Yep.
Basically, that's what they would call a scientific match.
Scientific wrestling.
Some people had great matches.
Yeah, you had rule breakers and scientific wrestling.
And they should have never told the wrestlers heels and baby faces. Maybe they would have never just kept on moving that in there. Always made it more than it was. Every wrestler, it's almost like they want it. Oh, guess what? I know the inside terms. And they loved using them. I don't get it. They'd always use, and the guy that used it the most is the guy that knew the least, I guess would be the word, about wrestling.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it really and truly was. If you used all that stuff in the dressing room, you kind of looked at them and went, you really don't understand it, do you? It's just all right. We ready to do our this is photographs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. On this video, we're going to go back and I think this might be part 4 or 5 of our series on looking at our collection of wrestling programs, pictures, and all of that. The first one I'm going to do is I actually cut this out, and I believe I might have used this in a program and the only reason I say I used it in a program because at the back of it, it says 153%, and I can't what was that other one say? 8 inches? I don't think it would have been 8 inches, but Dirty White Boys, Tony Anthony and Lynn Denton, they were a great tag team.
Yep.
Let me bring this up so everybody can see it. This was actually in the Wrestling News magazine, I believe. I think this might have been on the back cover of one of them. But they were so good, but they never got. I don't think they ever got pushed that well.
No.
Anywhere they went, they wasn't really given an opportunity in Mid-South Wrestling. What do you think, Rodney?
No, I think they did better. I think as the grapplers than they did as the Dirty White Boys. That seemed to be an afterthought.
Yeah.
But I think their mains was Tony Anthony by himself more than he was with Lynn Denton. But the grapplers, I think, were the more I guess popular tag team that they made.
Well, I think they took the belts off of them when they went to Memphis, right? I mean, not the belts, but the belts too. Baby.
They did that.
The mask. I think they took the mask off because there was already so many masked men there. They had the Assassins at the time. They had what was the team called? The A team in Memphis at the time. A bunch of masked teams because I don't think they needed another one. So they actually made them the Dirty White Boys. But I think you're right. They drew a lot of money as the grapplers in Louisiana. They did great business in Texas with them. So that was all right. Here is a photograph of two people who are no longer with us. I believe this was Doug Furness's wife. I'm pretty sure that's who's sitting here with them. You've got Doug Furness, Bullet Bob Armstrong, and I believe that is Doug's wife, isn't it, Rodney?
Yeah, it kind of looks like her, doesn't it?
I think
I'm not sure.
We always used to tell her, I don't know what you're doing with this guy.
That's true. That is true.
We would. We said, "What do you see in this guy?" This is what we'd always say. But this was, I think, this was during the wrestling. Was this during the Wrestling Fans International thing as well?
It looks like it. I was not there. Of course, I boycotted the whole festivities because they were not giving me an award.
I think they were looking at an old wrestling magazine. Doug Furnace probably asking, "Who's that?" Because he never watched wrestling.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it is a wrestling magazine. Yeah. All right, let's move on, and we all know this guy right here, Continental Heavyweight Champion in this photograph, the Nature Boy, Buddy Landell. This was took in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the Coliseum. It was took by a Steve Strogdale. I wonder if old Steve's still with us. This was took in 1987, I believe, during the while he was the Continental Heavyweight Champion. And I think this was after he managed the Ugidi Headhunters. Because didn't he come in as the manager of the Headhunters first?
Yes, he did.
Took Kevin Sullivan's place when Kevin Sullivan didn't want to do the job and left. Because he never did do them. He never showed up for the loser leave town matches. Here is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Rock and Roll Express.
Yep.
This was took during their time with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I have to think that they have to go down as one of the top 10 tag teams.
Yep.
Pro wrestling tag teams.
I don't remember what promotion that they were wrestling for, but Ricky and his son Kerry captured the tag team belts last week.
Was that in Decatur, Tennessee?
I think so.
Or, Joey Kazana, I think he's the
maybe,
one.
Maybe I believe that was it.
Wow.
You know, I'm going to. People say, and I've heard people say that Robert Gibson, but I have a newfound respect for Robert. When I go back and watch the matches, I look at Robert differently than maybe I looked at him in that time frame. Robert really was very good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because Ricky Morton had such a personality that he outshined Robert in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Robert, man, was just a solid performer.
And Robert, to his credit, knew when to step back and let Ricky take that spotlight, because he knew that him being with Ricky was the key to both of them being successful, because they weren't big guys.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, that was back in the day where you had to be a big guy to get a single push, but they knew where their money was and they took care of each other.
By the way, when Bill Dundee told me when they started doing when they asked him, Robert, to be the Rock and Roll Express, he didn't want to do it. He said he complained and said he was a wrestler. He wasn't a rock and roll singer, and he didn't want to do all that. And Ricky said, "Whatever you want me to do, I'm for it. Whatever you want me to do." So, but I think Robert can look back at it now and say, "Well, I'm glad I did not say just no to that." Yeah. Here is Super Kick, Scott Armstrong with the U.S. Junior title. This was probably this 87, Rodney?
Probably.
1987, Super Kick, Scott Armstrong. By the way, for those people who don't know who the Armstrongs are, you've been living under the rock for the one thing, but they were over in Alabama.
Yep.
Every one of them were over.
Scott is 59 and is in fantastic shape. Works for WWE for the NXT brand behind the scenes. I think he handles the timing of the matches and stuff now. Still going strong. Still looks great.
All right. Here is a photograph, and there is a car inside this picture. I don't remember there ever being a car inside that building, but there's Robert Fuller. Either the Tennessee Stud. Could have been the Tennessee Stud now. Or this could have been luscious Robert Fuller. But there's a car inside that building. You remember this, Rodney?
No, I do not.
But there is maybe a Cadillac sitting inside that building that he's leaning up against. But I don't remember them having a Cadillac tournament or anything. So,
Robert just turned 72 a few days ago.
Still looks good too.
It looks really good. Years.
Always a nice guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Always a nice guy.
Yeah.
Always like Robert. He was the good brother. Then we've got Mr. Wrestling 2 on the set. This is on the set of Georgia Championship Wrestling. I guess why were the mics so close together? Was that Gordon's mic on the other side there?
Probably was.
I think we sold these pictures. Did we sell these, Rodney?
What is very possible, but those look like some that Emmy would take for the program.
Yeah, probably you're probably right.
That's been the front of the program many times. That picture was.
Hey, by the way, I said that everybody but Rodney and me and other videos got our award at the Wrestling Fans International deal, and this is proof that those two other people that got our award that night. There you see Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden. I'm gathering they have tag team of the year. I'm not for sure, but everybody on the roster at some point got some type of a deal. I shouldn't have won either. When I look back at it, I shouldn't have won either.
You're boycotted.
I should have boycotted right along with you, since I didn't get an award. Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch. This photograph, I believe, we got when he worked for Mid-South Wrestling. This was a publicity picture that would be sent out to the newspapers. One of the greatest right here. Somebody asked, I think Brian Young said, was Dick Murdoch really that good? Yes, Dick Murdoch was really that good. He knew the psychology of the business. He knew how to make people mad. He knew how to get them. I seen him and Ric Flair have a match in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I just so happened to be in the dressing room, and Dick said, "Boy, tonight we don't do the Ric Flair match. We do." He said, "Tonight we do the Dick Murdoch match," and they did do a completely different match. He did not take the slam off the top rope. He did not do the flip over the top rope. He didn't do any of that stuff. But they had the people standing. It was Dick Murdoch. He respected Dick Murdoch, and actually, Dick Murdoch was the babyface in this match, and he led the match, not Ric Flair. And this match was tremendous. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Central Plex.
Which, for people who don't understand, the majority of the time, the heel led the match. Yeah, and in this deal, he told him that he would not be leading nothing; that it would be him. And I was bad. I don't know what I was doing back there. I did go to that show by myself, though. I don't know why anybody else didn't go. Here is Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Now, we sold these pictures, didn't we, Rodney?
Yes, we did.
Thought we did. These are ones these is 1978, maybe 1979.
Yeah, probably 79, I would think.
Boy, he was over in Atlanta. I don't know that he was as over in Atlanta than he was in the Carolinas. I think maybe the Carolinas he was over more. But Wahoo was over, and man, he would whip you in a minute. Let's show one more photograph, and then we'll leave the rest of them for another show. You would think I'd have had it ready, but I've lost the picture that I was going to bring up. All right, well, all right, I'll just throw this one up here then instead. Adrian Street. Great picture from a Birmingham State Fair. I think Adrian, I remember getting these pictures, and because we had these pictures made and took, and I can remember them there being 2,200 shots of Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian liked pictures.
And about 3 of everybody else. I just remember getting a ton of these because we used them as the program. We used them in the program. So for the whatever we called it.
Well, Adrian was very photogenic. He loved that camera.
Yeah, he did, and he took some great pictures, and he never complained and argued about it. He was the one guy that never had a problem when you put him on the program. Most of the other ones would have a problem with it. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page. If you haven't already, go one step further, hit that notification bell, and share the video. Until the next video, this is Brent West. On behalf of Rodney West and Jack Lord, we'll see you in the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. All right. Let's see, where was we at? And then we're going to have to get off of here. The morning time will come very early for us.
I've always noticed that the morning normally comes early in the morning.
Well, yeah, it could come later. It's according how late you get up.
Hey, now on the other hand, we can all know that I think it's supposed to be 90 by Saturday, but we're out of tornado season, so that gives us like 7 days that we don't have to worry about tornadoes.
There you go. There you go.
Tony Anthony on his own had a better push.
I think Tony was just better as a single.
Yeah, Dirty Bob Boys was an awesome tag team. I agree. I like their style, especially in Memphis. Aaron Buddy Londale.
That's right.
Yeah, Doug Furness was a football player at the University of Tennessee. He drew good in Knoxville at the beginning, but after a while, people found out he wasn't that good because he wasn't really good until he went to Japan. Then he got good when he worked Japan.
Yeah. I'll never forget how he got. Go ahead, Rod. Well, this is not the part where we send out, right?
No.
One night I will tell the story about me and Bob Polk talking about Mr. Lindale and Doug Furness.
Yeah, we'll tell that story another supporting.
Quite a heated argument.
Richard Hood said Buddy Landell busted wide open. Didn't Doug Furness win a powerlifting contest? Yes, I think he did.
Yes,
he did.
Yes, he was participating in a lot of those.
I didn't get. I'm glad I didn't get started before it cut me off. But anyway, he got mad. He was, that drop kick was tremendous, but it was real, and he'd take your head off with it. And he got mad because he threw 2 drop kicks during the match at me. And as soon as I felt him, I took the bump, and he got mad because he wanted to kick my head off. And we almost come to blows in the back over it.
Richard Hood said he's Buddy Robert. Yeah, roving reporter. You could tell Robert said, listen, let me do an interview with you. Roving reporter, Richard Hood on the job.
Yep.
I know. Jack, when you come in Robert Gibson's all pro championship.
Richard, I really want to. He's been asking me forever to come. Just right now, especially with all this pandemic stuff, I get my kids on the weekends, and the only time I don't have them is if I have a show of my own that I have to do. So it's hard for me to justify, taking a weekend off. Because of all the things I love about wrestling, I love my kids more.
I remember that belt well that Scott had. Yeah, that was a good belt. I don't know what happened to it, but Robert is the anchor of the Rock and Roll Express. Oh, Aaron, I think you're right. Go back and watch it. He has some great matches and does some good. Robert Gibson has such a low tone to his voice. It was always hard to tell what he was saying.
He was not comfortable on the microphone either.
Now, Michael, he did win a powerlifting contest. Scott is the oldest son. And really, I never knew that until I got to know Scott. I always thought he was the youngest, to be honest with you. I guess because he was the smallest, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that was the thought process.
It was funny. In Atlanta, Brad was going to get the Rookie of the Year award or whatever. they told him, to dress up. He's going to be presented with the award. Well, he didn't have any clothes. He's all he, the Armstrongs just dressed in warm-ups. They didn't have clothes. Scott had some clothes, so he come in there and had some dress pants on and a knit shirt like I'm wearing right here. So he come in to get his award, and Ole said, "This is what you're getting your award. I told you to dress up." He said, "Well, this is dressed up for me." He said, "I had to borrow this from Scott."
Because Scott at the time was working at some place that maybe even Scrappy was working at or something, but he was working in Georgia at a he wasn't in Ruston. He was actually working at a place in
yeah. He said, "I don't even own a coat. I don't own a tie. Nothing. I don't do that."
Oh, Aaron said, "I bet there's a mink coat inside that Cadillac." We'll have to tell you about the mink coat tournaments. I'll tell you what we'll do. Next week at the 7 o'clock hour, me and Rodney will tell you the inside stories of the meat coat tournaments. And we'll give you the whole story on that. But that will never air anywhere. But we'll tell you the inside stories of the meat coat tournaments and problems that happen during those meat coat tournaments. Robert Fuller. Went to high school in Atlanta. Yeah, I think, they had I'm pretty sure they had didn't they have a big place right outside of Atlanta? Like a big ranch?
Farm. Yeah, it was a farm. Yeah, I think so. Buddy had one.
Michael Barr said Miss Wrestling 2, one of the best masked wrestlers ever. Robert and Jimmy were a great tag team, but I don't know that they deserved these awards that they got. I don't think they deserved that. I'm still upset. 40 years later, I didn't get no award.
You went, though.
I did go, yes. I did go.
I did not.
I did get a free meal out of it, though.
I think I went to the movies that night and just totally disregarded the whole thing.
Dick had an attitude hymn that got the fans involved in the match. Yes, he did. He did have that. Was Murdoch really a card to carry him? I don't think he was. No. I don't think so. People have said that, but it's just a joke he played on Tony Atlas and Tommy Rich, and ever since then. Got to remember now, guys played a lot of tricks. We can tell you some stories that between Tommy Weathers and Ronnie Garvin that got really, really out of hand in Knoxville, Tennessee. We want to share those stories with you. Things got really out of hand there. So, Jack, who's your favorite weather forecaster?
James Spann.
All right, guys, we're going to have to get off here. It's about 9:26, but we do appreciate everybody, and because I say I've seen your chat about him. I remember buying 2 8x10s back in '68 of Wild Bill Curry and Pierre Mad Dog LaBelle for 50 cents each. We used to sell a bunch of photographs and stuff. We made some good money in 1986. Me and Rodney both made good money. I will try to be a Roman reporter when CCW comes back to Dothan. There you go, Roman reporter. Let us know.
Doug he said he's going to try. He said he's not going to make any promise. He's not going to make any promises here. He's going to try.
Hey, Michael Barr he made a good thing. He said, "Morning, we'll be here after midnight." That's the thing. There you go.
That's right.
All right. Thank you all so much. We certainly do appreciate it for your supporting us. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30, as we get your top 100 wrestlers. Who's on your 100? Mine, Brett Armstrong. So we'll see y'all tomorrow night. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.